Hi guys, this is Kathy Peterman, and I am a member of the Portlandia American Pilgrims on the Camino group. I've been a member since 2013, and I did a talk a week ago about gearing up for your Camino. Today is meant to be a condensed version of that talk that we might share with other pilgrims. So I'm going to kick it off by sharing my screen. And here we go. Oh, I'm at the very end, so we'll get to the beginning. So, my background, I'm a nurse and I've walked 3 Caminos, walked the Frances in 2013, did a little bit of the La Puy in 2017, and then in 2023, I picked up where I'd left off on the La Puy and walked all the way to Santiago. So that was 800 miles. And each Camino, I learn new things. The Camino is a lot about learning, let me tell you. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Our goal is to talk about a little bit about planning for your Camino, and then specifically to focus on what gear to bring, what gear to leave behind. I'll talk a little bit about resources and then share some of what the group shared last weekend of their additional tips. So before you begin the Camino, or actually any trip, I always like to ask myself, what is it that I'm wanting to experience? And to try to build things around that. Now, occasionally you might go, I don't even know why I want to walk, and that's okay. But what I would say is just to, if you have that calling in your heart or that desire, to keep on following it and to learn as you go. They say that your Camino begins when you decide to walk, and to be on the lookout for Camino angels that might be whispering in your ear little ideas or hints, both as you prepare, as you walk, and then even there's a lot of lessons that come after you get home. There are many Caminos. Most people, when they say I'm going to go walk the Camino, they mean the Frances, the very popular one that starts here in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port and it goes across northern Spain, but not on the coast, and goes all the way to Santiago. But if you look at this map, there are a lot of Caminos. Now, some of the other Caminos probably have less infrastructure or places to stay, to eat, etc. And so on those, sometimes you might need to walk further, or you might need to know the language of the countries that you're walking in. When to walk, there's the shoulder seasons that are the most popular. So that's in kind of late spring, getting ready almost for summer, and then also in late summer going into early fall. And you have to think about how much time you have. If you only have a week or two, then you can do portions of the Camino, or if you have longer and you want to walk longer, you can do those. One of the things I like to do for a Camino or any vacation is to load the cities that I'm going to go to into my weather app on my phone, so I can start getting familiar with what the weather is like there. Weather Spark, I think it's .com, is a great app online also, where you can look at the average weather at different times of year, how much precipitation they get, and how long the days are at different points in the year. But regardless, as we all know, like what the averages are not promises for what the weather will be. And so you want to be prepared for a range, a variety. And even if it's not the rainy season, you might get rain. Even if it's not the hot season, you might get some hot weather. And here's me with my umbrella that I love. And I'll just say, for all the things I'm talking about today, I'm going to put a link to the blog post that I did on my packing list. and also the specific packing list with each item, what it weighed, and many of those have links to the specific item. But this umbrella I love because it's great. As you can see me there, I'm in a 100-degree sun, which in France in 2023, we had almost 8 or 9 days where it was close to 100. And one of those days it got to be 105. And then also that you might have rain and cold. Sometimes I think the coldest we had was like 40 degrees. So a wide range. Be prepared for it all. A full disclaimer, nothing is going to be that one best thing for everybody. You're going to need to find your own favorites. I really encourage each of you to look to the pros, whether those are the staff at REI, your local sporting goods shop, other pilgrims, Facebook groups, YouTube, and to test your gear in all kinds of weather. So if you can test it in heat and rain and also do some longer walks, that's awesome. Here are the shoe racks. Most of the albergues don't let you bring your shoes inside just to keep some of that dirt outside. So that's what that looks like. With gear, there's a general rule of aiming to have 10% of your body weight or less. It's not a hard and fast rule, but it does make for happier pilgrims when we can hit that. And you'll learn that every ounce counts, and do your best not to pack your fears. I think us Americans really tend to feel more safe when we have more things around us and have hard times deciding what to bring or leave at home. And know that you're going to learn lessons. You'll learn what's essential or not. On my first Camino, I learned a lot. I brought way too much. I gave away a lot of stuff as I went. The Camino is simple. It's not glamorous. You do not need a hair dryer, curling iron, and a lot of things that we'll be talking about. You also can transport your bag forward for about 5 or 6 euros a day. And that's something you don't even have to pre-arrange. You can find out in the town that you're in where the little drop spot is and how you get an envelope and make that happen for the very next day. The 3 big choices are your backpack, your shoes, and your socks. And my first time, I picked out a really nice looking backpack for women. It was purple and it didn't fit me. So go get fit by a professional. Normally you're going to want 30 or 40 liter size. You really shouldn't need bigger than that. Some people that are very petite might be able to go a little smaller as well. With shoes, you want to have a shoe that fits your foot well. You normally want to go up a half size to a full size. That helps when you're going downhill so your toenails are not bonking into your shoe. You want to make sure you also have room to spread your toes sideways, so good toe box room. And I love insoles. I went to a company that, called Roadrunner Sports that will measure your feet. And you might be surprised that normally one foot's longer than the other, one foot's wider than the other. The arches between them might be somewhat different. They will measure all those things and help you get personalized insoles for approximately $100. And so for me, that was a really good choice. Socks, there's a variety of socks. My favorite is Darn Tough. They're a company based in Vermont. They're wool socks, but other people have other favorite socks. Some people love sock liners. There is also a sock called Right Socks, WRIGHT, and they're like a sock with a liner all in one. For me, I had challenges that just kept pushing my foot more into the sock and kind of squeezing on my toenails. So that didn't work for me, but it might be your answer. And then there's socks that have little toe spots in them, almost like a glove. A Ninja is the most popular brand. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but if you go to a store like REI or whatever, they can help you with that. Here's me with my backpack fully loaded. At this point, I'd walked the 800 miles and I was getting ready to go from Santiago to Portugal. Clothing basics. You need to have the clothes on your body and at least one change of clothes. And truly, you could go with that, a toothbrush, deodorant, and maybe a cell phone and a backpack and be totally fine. You don't have to plan everything out. Like I said, it's okay to learn as you go. I would recommend, though, that you have 2 to 3 bottoms, 2 to 3 tops, 3 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of shoes, one for walking and one for the evening or after you're walking. And for me, I got bad blisters on my first 2 Caminos. And so those evening shoes were my Birkenstocks that I ended up on my first Camino walking 200 miles in them. So to think about a shoe that might be more rugged that you could walk in potentially. 2 to 3 pairs of underwear for women. You want 1 to 2 bras. I love a dress option. You want to pick fabrics that are comfortable on your body and dry quickly. You do not want cotton because if it gets wet, like if you had cotton socks, those are going to hold the moisture, whereas wool is very wicking. And it also is good for a variety of temperatures. It'll keep you warm when it's cold. It has that wicking ability to kind of cool you down when it's hot. And it has some odor inhibitors in it, so you probably have less odor with merino wool. So here are my main clothes that I brought. I brought 3 bottoms. So I'll just start at the lower end, and I brought some almost like silk shorts that is similar to men's trunks. They had built-in underwear and a little drawstring. They were very comfortable to sleep in, to hike in, to wear under a dress. Then I had a base layer similar to long johns that is made out of a material called Flash Dry from North Face. I thought that was just going to be a layer when it was cold I could wear under my pants, but then later I wore it like leggings because they dry super fast and they can handle hot, hot, hot and cold, they keep you warm. And then I had Mountain Hardwear trail pants that dry almost in an instant. This also had a drawstring in it. Then a flash dry crew neck long sleeve top, a purple top that was made by Columbia that's long sleeve with a hood. And then I had 2 short sleeve shirts, this purple merino wool one that I loved and wore. The blue one I wore once and then donated it. So that is overkill for me on shirts. In the future, 3 shirts is fine. 3 shirts is kind of a luxury. And then because I love dresses, I brought 2 dresses on my last Camino. This black and white one is only 4 ounces. It's almost like silk, but it's polyester. And then a little bit thicker dress in this pink and blue. Both of these dresses had pockets, which I love. For footwear, I wore Ultras and Birkenstocks. My favorite socks are Darn Tough Quarter Crew. And so these 2 were what I wore most of the time. These are the right socks that I mentioned, WRIGHT, that I ended up donating. And then this is a little like no-show shorter sock that's a little bit thinner that I wore occasionally. I love stuff sacks. I like the Eagle Creek type that are almost like parachute material. So in this green one, I had all my clothes. In the blue one, I had my coat and buff and things like to get warm with. In this light blue and green sack, I had all my personal care stuff and my stuff to clean my laundry. This is my first aid kit, my little sleep kit, and then this is socks and underwear and bras, I think. So it was easy for me to find. With stuff sacks, you don't want those that really add to the weight. And you probably could simplify and have less than what I have, but that's up to you. I also brought a zip up long sleeve zip pocket coat, similar to a fleece, but it's just polyester. This is my raincoat. It's very thin, but because I bring an umbrella, and I normally hike in the non-rainy seasons, it worked out fine. This blue thing is a day pack. It's a little bit bigger, but I already had it, so I brought it. If you can find a smaller, lighter one, feel free to bring that. What that's good for is like if you're out in the evening and you're grocery shopping, or if you're gonna go on some day excursions where you don't have your full big backpack. You could totally just use like one of those Chico little grocery bags type thing that fold up into themselves that are much smaller. That would also work in the same fashion. Here's me in my rain thing. It's more almost like a windbreaker, and it does mostly wicking. If you had a heavy rain, you'd be pretty wet, but it worked for me. And then here's my friend Gigi on a walk in France with her little day pack, just to show you. This was a little side trip we took to Cirque de la Poppy, where having that day pack was nice. Personal care, I love finding solutions where they take the water out of the product. So shampoo bars, I love Humby, Humby. I love them because they clean really good and they don't leave residue in your hair and they don't have artificial fragrances in them. I also like a bar of soap. I think I used Dr. Bronner's and cut the bar in half, even to cut weight. And I use that soap for my body and for washing my clothes. And then I put my bars into gauze bags that I'll show you later. Um, I use cheap organza bags, but there is a company, somehow the name is, it starts with an M. It's eluding me right now, but there is a more expensive, nice bag that a lot of people use for their shampoo. Conditioner, they make conditioner bars, but for my hair was like down to my waist and it's kind of thick. And it just felt like my hair was dry without a creamy kind of conditioner. So just a heads up that in France and Spain, you won't find conditioner quite as easily as you'll find shampoo everywhere. I also like tooth powder here again, just to cut weight. And because that's the kind I use at home all the time. You'll also want deodorant. So here's my tooth powder. Then I just put it into a smaller container. I brought a kid's bamboo toothbrush because it was very light. They also make travel toothbrushes that kind of fold together that will protect the bristles from touching other things. I happen to love using a tongue scraper daily, so I brought that. Oh, and this very tiny dental floss. I need to have dental floss nearby, so this little tiny one was great and it lasted well. Here's the Humby shampoo bar. I brought this deodorant and it lasted almost the full 3 months. I bring some Q-tips just for now and then versus daily. I brought some Neosporin and part of my first aid kit. This is the little conditioner I brought that was like super concentrated, it's called Replenish. So it's like just a little dab would do me. I brought a little bit of essential oil just because it makes me feel good. And so I only had a tiny bit in the bottle, but Here again, luxury items, certainly don't need that. And then you'll want a towel. There's a variety of kinds. Most people bring a microfiber. They come in different sizes. I ended up finding that the Turkish towel was similar weight, and I liked how it felt on my body. I bought all these towels and did experiments, took a shower and would dry one half of the body off with one with the other. Most people don't need to get into that level of detail, but that's me. Here's the half bar of the Dr. Bronner's for washing my body and my clothes. You could put that in a smaller bag, like the gauze bags I'll show you later, and a hairbrush. For washing my clothes, I used that half bar of the Dr. Bronner soap. I brought 6 plastic clothespins. I could have totally left this clothes bag at home, and I didn't really like this REI, I guess it's Sea to Summit if I'm reading that right, laundry wash. They're little papers that dissolve and you can wash with, but I basically left that somewhere. And then this is a brush that was on a dish scrubber that had kind of worn out. So the head I took the head off and I just use that to clean my shoes as I go. I just like cleaning them now and then. Here is my first aid kit. I had some moleskin, leukophore tape. I love hiker's wool. That's my main thing that I use if I ever have a hot spot. And you just put a little on your foot, then put your sock right on top of it, and the sock holds it in place. I brought only one COVID kit to save weight, but to have one instead of, if I was actually sick, would I really feel like going to the pharmacy to get a test kit? They sell them there. They're €2 to €3, but I brought one with me just to have, and I did use it because I was sick at one point and was happy it wasn't COVID. I bring some fabric Band-Aids, some alcohol prep pads, a little naproxen, which is like Advil, just to at least, get me over there on the trip. The pharmacies sell this kind of stuff, so you don't need much. I also bring some activated charcoal in case I got food poisoning. That's in little capsules. I bring some magnesium oxide in case I got constipated. And here's a little tea tree oil. It's similar to an antimicrobial thing. Do you need all this stuff? Not necessarily, but for me, this was enough to cover the basics. I could probably have less of each of those capsules, way less moleskin and leukophore tape, because on my last Camino, 800 miles, 0 blisters. And I will just share that a blister is created when you have moisture and friction. So even on my first Caminos, I aired out my feet often, like every 2 to 3 hours. I changed socks midday, but for me, Gore-Tex boots still trap too much moisture in my feet. And so my saving grace was when on my last Camino, I ditched the boots and went to hiking shoes. So grateful to not have to deal with blisters, but I did still use some of that hiker's wool and maybe once or twice some of the leukophore tape. This is my little, what I call sleep sack. I've got an eye mask, which was great. The sun can be up very late in summer over in France and Spain. I also had a little headband that had built-in earbuds so that if I wanted to listen to something as I fell asleep, it wouldn't disturb other pilgrims. I bring a handkerchief. I brought some throat lozenges just in case I got a cold. So if I had a tickle, I could use that. Earplugs, I brought the silicone kind and I definitely prefer that versus the foam kind, but I gave the foam ones away. And then just a little bit of tea as, here again, luxury item. So you want to also bring walking sticks. I love the umbrella because it's good both for the heat and the rain. It's super sturdy umbrella. The type that I use, I heard about from John and Robin, who started our Portlandia group, and it's called Six Moons. Here again, you can look at my pack list and find out more details about all this stuff. A hat is great. I like a hat that even if it's super windy, it's not going to blow off. So one that has a string underneath. I like a hat that you can wash. S hooks are great because you can hang your backpack either from your bunk bed, or you can also bring it into the bathroom and hang it like over the shower door or what have you. Power adapter is important. Air tags might be nice, especially if you're shipping things ahead, just as a way to keep tabs on where your items are. I now carry an AirTag in my purse, so my phone won't even tell me if I'm walking away from my purse. Nice little benefit. Permethrin is something I use on my backpack and my sleep sack to avoid bed bugs. You want to bring at least 2 credit cards, ideally those that don't have any international fees. You want to bring a little cash if you can, just so when you land, you have some. And a calling plan or eSIM card these days. Here's that umbrella folded up. Here's the walking stick I used. I happen to be someone that likes to take pictures so often that I like my hands free. So I tend to just bring one walking stick for when the terrain is a little more challenging, but that's unusual. Most people will want 2 walking sticks. It will help make you more sturdy. There is some challenging terrain. It will also help take the load off your legs and put it in your upper body. I love a stainless steel drinking bottle. This is Clean Canteen. I was going to bring this container for food, but left it at home. This is my sleep sack. I happen to like a little bit longer, wider, and cotton versus I had silk before and used it and it was fine. But when I held it up, it was falling apart and I needed a new one. So I kind of went through and looked at what my choices were and landed on this one. And then a fanny pack, which is great to keep all your valuables so that you can leave your backpack without it's got your clothes and other stuff, which no one would want to take, but you have your valuables that you can go into the bar with, or if you wish, when you go to the bathroom, if you're traveling solo and want to take it, you can. I brought this adapter because I had 2 devices to charge, but if you only had one device, you could just bring this little adapter to convert a regular US plug to France and Spain. Use this Europe adapter. I brought this little kickstand that would hold up your phone, but really didn't use it. You could totally prop your phone on something else. I did use it once for selfie walking down the street in Burgos, but hey. Then here are some of my cords. I brought a bandana. These are those organza bags that you can get about 100 for $5 or $6 off of Amazon. So you can share them with your other pilgrim friends. Matador is the name of that other shampoo bag. It costs about $27, but a lot of pilgrims love it. This was some ties to help hold the umbrella up while you're walking. For me, it didn't work that great. I really wouldn't bring it again. This is a battery backup system. They make smaller ones now. I would either bring a smaller one, or if your phone can hold a charge for 24 hours and the apps that you'll be using are not sucking all the juice out in less than 24 hours, you may not. I used it once in the 3 months on my most recent Camino. You'll also want to make copies of all the things I list right there, just in case you lose them, or if you need, like you lose your prescription and you need to know what it is, or need to contact your travel insurance. If you text yourself your flight code, then you can just tap on that code and get updates about your flight. I love to take photos of what I'm bringing, and then when I get home, take photos of what I did not use. Or even when I donate it on the Camino, I'll take pictures of it just for myself to remember what got used, what didn't. The eye mask I mentioned, I use the Blinky is the name of it, I think. And I like because it's kind of cupped so your lashes aren't going against it. Earplugs we already talked about. Buff is a great thing that you can wear around your neck, on your head. If it's hot, you can dip it in water, put it around your neck, etc. Lots of uses for that. Or even to dress up an outfit. And then adapters we already talked about. Water bottle or water system. I like the taste of the water in the stainless steel better than in plastic, but a lot of people really love having a water bag system and just sucking through the little straw thing that goes through the backpack as an easy way to get hydrated. Hat we already talked about. I also at the last minute added a dry sack based on a recent pilgrim's suggestion and was really glad I did. I probably could have had less of those sacks that I showed you because the dry sack really can be used for that as well. It was great for when there was challenging rain and I could put everything I owned, including my phone, my money, etc., to keep it dry inside my backpack and then have the cover, the rain cover over the back of my pack. Blister kit, we already went into that. So here's some of the outfits, me in my dress with my little quarter crew socks and my ultras. You see, I kept my umbrella and my walking stick normally in the backpack, have a little bandana hanging just to wipe my brow on those hotter days and have my fanny pack on in front. The middle shot is a colder, windy day. And so sometimes you're going to be layering up more. And on the right is my first Camino. And it was very cold the next morning after I woke up at Orison. So I ended up putting on almost all the clothes I owned and never thought, oh, that I would be wearing these together, but it kept me warm enough until the sun came up. So France and Spain are not third world countries. You can get things there. The pharmacies in Europe are great. They can even help with a little bit of telling you whether you need to see a doctor or maybe can try some Compeed stuff. So it's a great place to begin if you think you might need to see a doctor, but you're not sure. You'll want to edit as you go. There were a few times where I spread everything out on my bed. And I asked myself, what have I not been using? And am I going to use it in the rest of this trip? And Rosas Valles is one of the first day or two on your Camino if you're doing the Frances. And they have a donation table just filled with stuff because people, after they cross the Pyrenees, realize, oh my gosh, I have too much stuff. So they'll donate it there. It's totally fine to go on your Camino alone. I did the first two solo and the last with a friend. So either way is fine. You can stay in albergues. Some of them have private rooms where if you're traveling with someone, it can be pretty cost effective. I originally thought that like when they said, oh, for a private room, it's maybe like 40 euros, let's just say. I thought that was per person, but when you're booking a room like that, it's actually for however many beds are in the room. So then it was only 20 euros a person and not too bad compared to the albergue price per person. You can also go to booking.com and book in hotels, Airbnbs, apartments, that kind of thing. And the challenge we have now is whether to book ahead or not. And so on my 2013 Camino, I didn't need to It was great. We could just walk till we were done walking and find a place. And nowadays, you might want to just ask other pilgrims and see what you're comfortable with, whether you need to book ahead or not. And occasionally to look back to your why. Why are you going on this trip? And if there's anything that you need to do to not just adjust your items, but maybe your attitude or what you're doing to achieve your why, go ahead and do that and keep on being open. You might go for a certain reason and then learn totally different things. Physical training, what I would say is most pilgrims say they wish they had trained a little more. Start wherever you're at and just start walking more distances and more often. Then start adding in some elevation. And then if you can, actually get some terrain, like more of a hike where you're going over rocks and things, not just on a paved path. And highly advise getting things in your backpack in the last month before you go and hiking with your backpack. So you might start like at 10 pounds of weight and then gradually up it. But in that last month, I was going on probably 3 walks a week. Some people might just have weekends, that's okay. And I was wearing my backpack loaded because it just helps break that in and helps your body get used to that. You can also use the Camino as you're training and just stop more frequently in the beginning, do shorter distances, and gradually work your way up. And always adjust your gear as you need to, as you're planning, ideally to use it in the rain and the heat if you can, and to go on some longer walks just to see, are those underwear chafing you? Do the shoes fit good on that longer walk? How does that shirt feel when it either gets wet or um, it's cold type of thing? This was the walk from Saint Jean Pied de Port to Roncesvalles in 2023. It is the hardest day of that Camino Frances, but the Pyrenees are beautiful. The first time I walked over the Pyrenees, I stopped in Orison. There's also another albergue called Borda. For those two, you definitely need to book them in advance because they fill up quickly. But this, if you do from Saint Jean Pied de Port to Roncesvalles, it's the hardest day on that Camino Frances. There's a couple other places where there's some challenging terrain, but break it up into smaller pieces if you're not feeling physically fit. Things to leave behind. Do your best not to bring your worries and fears, like all the what ifs. And on my first Camino, I think I grabbed a couple of shirts from races I had been in and just threw them in at the last minute, and I donated them at Roncesvalles. Yeah. For me, Gore-Tex boots were not the answer, but they could be great for you. Try to leave behind your expectations. You definitely don't need like a 5th top or 5 pairs of socks. That is overkill for sure. More in that 2 to 3 range is going to work for most of that. Don't need a swimsuit. I could, if I wanted to go swimming, and there are some places with pools, I could wear those shorts and either my bra that looked plain enough that no one really would know, or a shirt on top of that if I needed to. I personally didn't use a headlamp. I have a little lamp that you'll find in my packing list that worked great for me because I don't want to hike in the dark. To me, you miss signage, you can't see where you're going. So it's not my thing, and the little light was great. And it also depends upon when in the year you're going because the days are way longer in summer and way shorter in winter. Typically, you're not going to need a sleeping bag. A sleep sack will be enough. You don't need a sleep pad because you'll have beds. I personally, in the 3 Caminos, use my clothesline once. So I'm not packing that anymore. Whereas one of the women at our talk, it was one of her favorite items. So that's where it can vary. And that clothesline was very small. It might have weighed an ounce. But if you have 12 things that only weigh an ounce, that's getting closer to a pound. The battery pack I already mentioned, I might leave behind next time or get a smaller one. Definitely don't bring things that you don't like. And don't bring too many stuff sacks. Here again, mine is probably a little excessive. For guidebooks, I used a guidebook and I would highlight it. I would put Post-its in it. Then I would buy the digital book and transfer those notes into the digital book so that I didn't have to carry a guidebook. There are also lots of apps and websites that one can use. We'll talk about those at the end. And for goodness sakes, leave your perfection at home. Also tell your host if you are donating something. This is a picture of one of my hosts in France. I had a bra that, having worn it for a couple of days, realized, oh my gosh, it really doesn't work for hiking. I probably should have worn it more at home to figure that out. But it was pretty new, so I left it at the albergue in France. And this lovely host noticed it and he came bringing me that item of clothing saying, ma'am, you left this. So let your host know if you're donating something, is the moral to that story. When you are doing non-Camino travel, I'll at the end, when I come back to myself on camera, show you my little backpack that I use. But use all the same steps, like put the cities in your weather app, look on a weather spark, think about what you want to accomplish, think about how long you'll be gone. You can wash your clothes in the sink or make sure that at, once a week you have a washer and dryer perhaps, or go to a laundromat. And it's good to do a weekend or a short trip. And like I said, I love to do those photos before and after, everything I'm taking, and then all the things I didn't use at the end. Here are my shoes after 800 miles. I think they did pretty good. I'm kind of easier on shoes. Some people might need more than a pair if you're going more than 500 miles. But most shoes should last about 500. Here again, it's going to vary by person. Resources. I talked about the guidebooks already, but great apps that I loved is Wise Pilgrim I used. That would allow me to pull up a map and see whether I'm on the trail or not. The Camino Frances has so many arrows, and really you could go without any guidebook because it's so well marked, whereas the other Caminos are less well marked, but still fairly decent. There's also a Buen Camino app that's similar. Grons is a website that will show you all the Caminos along with places to stay. And there's a Camino planner site that will help you figure out distances between your start and stop for the day, so you don't have to add up each little increment. Also, resources are other pilgrims. Everybody will have great advice to give you. Facebook groups are great. YouTube has so many videos. I use lighterpack.com to create my packing list, and I will share that with you guys. And then it is a little bit of a juxtaposition to say after I'm telling you all this stuff, but don't overplan. Like everybody's level of what they need to feel like they're ready is different. Some totally could just grab things and leave tomorrow or the next day. Some might want a lot more time. Here's a great quote I'll read you. Lately, I've been traveling with less, and I mean really less. Fewer things, fewer plans, fewer expectations. And what I found is this: the less I carry, the more I experience. I'm letting places imprint on me instead. A shared glance, the way light hits stone, silence that doesn't have to be filled. I think it's about shedding layers until what is left is real. And I think this is a huge part of the lesson I've learned on the Camino. Then I will stop sharing and come back to show you a couple things. Number one, this is the backpack that I use when I'm traveling non-Camino. It actually holds a fair amount and it has all these different pockets and containers, and it has a strap across the chest so it won't be falling off. There's spots for my water and such. And so with this, I probably need less stuff sacks, but I do the same steps and often even bring some of the same clothes. And, you know, don't hesitate to wash your clothes in a sink if you need to, etc. Some of the tips that our group last weekend when I presented had to add, Linda talked about bringing, she found this really cool water bottle, like selling water in a store that was aluminum. So it was light, but it was sturdy. And some people use smart water bottles because they're a little thicker plastic. And that was good for when you're maybe going a further distance or it's a hot day and you need extra water. She had this really cool, very small deodorant that was made by Native. I've also seen the company Humble. For those in the Portland area, New Seasons tends to carry, I think, maybe both of those. She also wrapped duct tape around her hand sanitizer so she could bring just a little duct tape, which is great if you have clothes that rip or pulls that aren't wanting to hold together just for repairs. And she also brought zip ties that were good for some repairs or even holding zippers together, maybe at the airport or things like that. Sally just reinforced that we're all different, which hopefully I've been reinforcing as we go. And her tip was, if at all possible, wear and use the items for about 6 months before you go. She marked her poles and her walking sticks with washi-like tape that was colored so that it was easy to pick out her shoes. You saw that picture with all the shoes lined up. If your boots look like many other pairs, mine were fuchsia, so I didn't need that, but that's a great tip. She also used hand gloves that allowed the fingers to be out with her walking poles. And so she used bike gloves is what those are. And that just helped her not get all sweaty on the poles and also help protect her skin from the sun. She also used arm sleeves, and I've seen those like for gardening. So it's a sleeve that goes from about here to your wrist. And she put them on in the morning, and then as it heated up, she could just peel them off. A lot of people also love the zip off pants that can convert from pants into shorts. And Sally brought extra rubber tips so that her poles never wore through to where she's going clickety clack, because that gets on other people's nerves. And then a gentleman at our presentation, his whole thing was he loved Gore-Tex boots and he needed the ankle support. So for him, that was his best thing. The Ninja socks are also something that other people love. It's really good, especially if you get blisters between your toes. And as I already mentioned, one of the women said the clothesline was one of her favorite things. What I would say is if there are other things that were your favorite thing on the Camino, please post them below to help other pilgrims know about other tips and hints. And with that, I will bid you adieu and wish you each a buen camino. Have a good day. See if I can get my cursor to there.